business analysts, developers, testers, everyone. If you have DevOps also, so DevOps guys will also be part of this. Test automation, everything, if it is in scope. The very first role, so it's of the product owner. So this typical person, he or she has the vision of the project. So he is working as a liaison between the team and the stakeholder. Rather, we should say him a person who is representing the stakeholder who knows the line of business very well. So he or she is going to define the features of the product because the team might not be knowing what is the expectation of the management, why those features are part of the product backlog. So he or she represents the business. So if there is any questions that arises and he is also or she is not aware, they get back to the stakeholders and come back and inform the team. This person is also responsible for achieving maximum business value from the product because I was giving in the previous example, any of the business scenario has got changed, and until and unless we incorporate that in the current product backlog, so that those value is going to get missed. That what was happening in case of a typical waterfall. So that was a difference, and as a result of which, if he or she feels anything which has brought in a scope change and we need to address that scope and which has a very high business value. So if I go back to my old diagram here, so those things will be added and will come up the hierarchy and the ranking will be done accordingly. So next point exactly is talking about that. Prioritize features according to business value. So this business value can change from time to time, but as a product owner, it should not change in between a sprint. That is the worst case it can happen. Next, responding to change and reprioritize. This only can arise. There is a need from the stakeholder in the business and to address the business need. He or she should have the business justification and should also, it's not that thrust on the team, make the team understand what prompted this requirement. And this product owner is the final person who is going to accept or reject. When I talk about work results, there's nothing but the user stories. In case of a typical safe, it is the product owner, but a different roles. So this particular session that today I'm talking is basically at a Scrum level, not at a safe level. Any
Okay.
questions on this?
No, no questions.
Okay. So next slide, I'll definitely give a lot of emphasize because you are preparing for the Scrum Master. So each and every point I'm going to talk and give a lot of examples. Stop me for anywhere you need more explanation or things are not clear to you. Okay.
Okay.
The very first point it talks about Scrum Master is a servant leader. So many of the Scrum Masters, even when I was a Scrum Master, didn't used to like this particular word. So if we talk about, there are two words on that, servant and a leader. So this gives a lot of people says, how come I become a servant as well as a leader? So it has two aspects of looking this into this word. In case of a typical waterfall project, how the project manager is to dictate, that doesn't happen in case of agile. So basically he works as a servant for the team. So he doesn't incorporate or trust his voice on the team. He makes sure he he or she that who is playing that role ensures that all the team's voice is being heard. It may be the most junior most member, it may be the most senior most member. Everyone has a say, and he is going to be a servant to the team and lead by capturing their what the thoughts are, what the blockages are, and help them arrange that in case of there is any blockage, in case of any requirement, any technical sessions. That's when he represents and lead the team. That's why it's as a leader. But he never thrusts his views and his ideas on the team. Next is conflict resolution. So definitely, we have also seen. So when there will be individuals, there will be conflicts. But we need to take care of those. There will be something, any way out to resolve in. Two developers might not agree on a certain issue or a way of development on a code. And this will be the most common example you'll find for the developer and the tester not agreeing on a certain point. Then how to go and mitigate that? So he is going to a person who is going to resolve those conflicts are always welcome in agile, but those should be a healthy conflicts, not like cold war, people not talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to provide guidance to the teams. Definitely, when I say a guidance, guidance from agile or Scrum's perspective. He or she may be a technical person, but he or she not going to sit and code. He can encourage team to use the best practices, and there'll be some challenge and obstacles to the program. Might be also a person is being pulled into some other engagement working at the same time. So Scrum Master is a person who is going to raise his voice on that. In this occasion, he's not a servant, he's a leader. He highlights to the management that no, his prime focus is in my team. He's not going to get engaged in some other deliveries, and my current engagement is going to get affected. Ensure that the team is fully functional and productive is very, very important. In case I have also worked for my organizations, I have also found this gap is happening. There are people who are very, very good technically, but they don't have functional knowledge. On the other hand, you will see there are people who are have functional knowledge, they have domain knowledge 10 plus years, but they don't have enough technical expertise to explain to the team. And as a result of which the team used to falter, as a result of which the requirement and the delivery is to be a huge gap. So he or she understands this needs, talk to the team, and get to know whether they need what time of help, whether it is a functional or technical, and he highlights to the management and gets those things done for the team. Enable close cooperation across all roles and functions. This is very, very important in Agile and Scrum because we don't have a typical technical lead, QA lead, BA lead, those kinds of fancy designations are not there. So whatever roles are there as a developer, as a tester, so until and unless there is close cooperation, the Scrum benefits are not going to help out and it's going to falter. Any questions, Farah?
No, no questions. No
Okay.
shit.
And the last is the Scrum team. So again, I'm giving an example only from a Scrum perspective. It's
Mm-hmm.
not that exactly it has to be five and within 5 and 10. There are also like in my current organization, I'm seeing there are member over 13. But again, it should not cross 20 because if we talk about the daily stand up, it is a time boxed event of 15 minutes. If you have 20 members in your team, If you dedicate 1 minute also for the update, it is going to take 20 minutes. That's the result. Reason I'll say it is good to have a small team of in the range of 5 to 10 people. Uh, and in that 5 to 10, we should have a healthy balance of VA developers and testers. And the next point it talks about cross-functional. The reason I'll give a live example. So all three testers in my previous organization took leave on the same day. One was on a planned leave, other person fell sick, and the other had to leave office early. She had come in office, but she had to leave early. So that's the reason. Suppose we have some testing activity which is going on. Until and unless there is cross-functional, so we cannot reach out to client and say we don't have any testers and today there is no activity. Again, I'm not saying that the tester is going to sit and do the coding, but they should have a small understanding the what is the expectation, how they do the work, so that next time also they can think about. That's the reason when the estimation happens in case of agile, we also say you as a tester just tell us in case you are the developers how much effort is required in that. Same thing goes for the developer. The developer also says for the testing, I feel like this much of hours is going to be required. And that's the reason we talk about we need cross-functional people so that they can understand what is the scope, what is the vision. And the Scrum team definitely it contains of business analysts, developer, testers. In case again, was giving examples. So nowadays we have a lot of automation happening. So we have definitely those people who are working. So manual testers and automation testers, also the DevOps if that is also in scope. Yeah, I'll make a pause and ask you, Farah. So if you talk about the QA perspective,
Mm-hmm.
so how is it happening in your projects? In the live sprints, they are working on test automation, or it's just N minus one.
It's a lot of manual, but I also do automation. So I
Hmm.
use Selenium for that.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
I'm saying when the test automation is happening at the same time when the development is happening, or once they have completed the sprint, you are working on the test automation of those things.
Only after completion of sprint we work
Yeah,
on test
okay, yeah.
automation.
That's how means it was happening in PwC, my previous organization,
Mm-hmm.
and same thing is happening in CGI, N minus one.
Okay.
Okay. So going back to the next point, core members should be full time, whether it's a product owner, scrum master, and the team members, because until and unless this is happening, we have shared resources and they will not be able to understand the grim of the situation. And if they are not full-time members, they'll not give their best. And since the deadlines are quite fixed here, 2 weeks, so you cannot borrow those resources and all of a sudden understand because here we are working on sprint. So few of the if they have already worked on previous sprint, they'll know the flow. So if they are part-time members and we include new member, they'll not understand will be understand the flow. And here again, I am emphasizing on this word teams are self-organizing because they themselves will say, Kaushik, this last time we worked on that, the requirements uh, was not clear. So this time we have already gone through the user stories of the upcoming sprint, and these are my questions. As a Scrum Master, you should ensure those things they are doing it. And the Scrum Master, the product owner should always work on the current sprint plus two so that you are refining the backlog in the long term also. If there is any scope change, you can address that. And Very important thing, individuals take ownership. In case of a typical waterfall, work was assigned to them. In case of agile, it's not a push, it's a pull. So we have completed the role, Farah. Any
Okay.
questions on any of the roles?
No, Kaushik, no questions.
Okay. So now we're almost covered that. So let's see what. So basically, the requirement phase and the product backlog phase, we're going to emphasize this. So
Okay.
when a project is starting without a vision, a project never actually occurs. It addresses a business need. So a product planning starts with the business vision. So in case any of you have been in the PI planning meetings, so the very first meeting will get kicked open with the stakeholders' vision, what they're trying to address, why they're funding that particular project, what prompted that project to arise. So the vision also guides the MVP. So are you familiar with this word MVP?
No. What is MVP?
Okay. So it is called minimum viable product. That is the full form of MVP. So we're talking about the sprints, right? So
Yes.
how often after 2 or 3 sprints, when you club those deliveries, you can go
Mm-hmm.
for a release. Suppose if I give you an example of airline major or
Mm-hmm.
a e-commerce website, maybe in the very first month, I'll not be able to give you all the functionalities, okay?
Mm.
So in case of a typical airline, so what their aim will be to build the
So
search
this is
functionality.
talking about a completely new project, like from scratch when you're starting, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So you're telling it'll take at least 2 to 3 sprints to deliver this project.
Not only it can be a huge, it can be a year, okay?
Okay.
So basically in the very first 2 or 3 sprint, what at least I can present to my management, okay? So that they understand whatever money I have invested is going in the right direction. So if I talk about the flight booking, so at least they can build the search functionality, okay, and show that I have made the front end ready. The from to those criteria is working fine. The, from the business perspective, what should come next?
Okay.
No, I'm asking you a question.
Oh, um, I'm not sure, Kaushik.
The billing part, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You're going to book the ticket. Once you book the ticket, the money should come to the company. So
Yes.
here, I was giving example for so might be it's a 1 year project, okay? But
Mm-hmm.
if I am able to build that functionality in credit card rather than giving them an option of 4 or 5 of Visa, Master, and I am not sure what other you have used. Amex they has their own payment domain. So similarly, there are Mastercard and other things. Okay. So rather than making 10 options, at least if I can start working from one that I'm only giving Visa payment. Okay. Again from net banking and rather than giving 20 banks, at least few well-known banks. So this is going to help me at least the project run and gets some amount of money coming back to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I can add on few more banks and take those things as an user story. But since I have built my search functionality and my billing functionality is also ready, at least this part I can make it live. Does it make sense?
It does make sense. Yes,
Yeah.
Kaushik.
So this is nothing what I was giving an example of a minimal viable product. So this business says until unless you build this product, don't go for a release. It doesn't make any sense for me. And that's how they arrange the requirement, and they can go for small releases.
Okay. Hey Kaushik, I have a question that is not really
Sure,
linked
sure.
to this. Can you tell me if the Scrum Master conducts meetings with the stakeholders?
Now, he is a facilitator, but I'll not say he'll conduct that. Basically, it is the product owner who
Okay, the
interacts
product.
with the stakeholder in the business. But
Okay,
sometimes the owner and the scrum masters also jointly attend those meetings. But sometimes there is some business value which the team
okay,
is also supposed to know.
okay,
So in those sessions, if we talk about arranging those, so those responsibilities scrum masters are going to take ownership. So basically, he arranges for those date, he blocks the calendar, he invites those people, but he is a facilitator.
okay. All right.
So next is the very most important thing is about the product backlog. So in case of a product backlog, it's fine. It is which comprises of four steps. We initiate it, it keeps on refine it. We need to estimate, and we need to plan accordingly. The very first step is the initiate sense. But if you see in the right side, Farah, there is a pick. It starts from the project. From the project, various features are identified. I was giving example of this airline booking system, right? They
Mm-hmm.
identify the various features which is going to be part of that project. Those features will be at a very high level. So if I talk about billing functionality, that is an epic. We cannot directly build that. In that billing, we'll have credit card, we'll have net banking, and various other ways to pay that. So
Hmm.
those will be at an epic level. Again, in net banking, which are the banks you are going to have? So that will come as a user story. In that, what are the various tasks you will write so that your search functionality or there's going to be a radio button or a checkbox. Those will be at a task level. And since you mentioned that you're working, you want those workflow. So I am also working on a similar thing like the dashboard is not reflecting the right data. The reason is because the one user story is related to multiple epics. So that is a wrong thing. So those data cleanup activities I'm doing so that the CFL level people they need to understand what is the progress of the project, how far is still in development, how far is still in backlog, and how far they have achieved it. The next is the refinement one. See again here it's the product owner and the team works through the product backlog to clarify the requirements and they make it simplify wherever it's necessary. They feel like anything which in the user story needs more information, they get those requirements clarified with the product owner. And in case simplifying, they have any questions, they feel like that is at an epic level, they bring it down at a user story level. The objective is to cover 60% of the product backlog where each item is dealt within a sprint. Because when we are starting the project, till the last, whatever the requirement, we cannot actually clarify everything. As you move down the project, there will be something which will go out of the scope and something which will get more clarified. That's the reason you're saying 60%. But this 60% doesn't apply in an active sprint. I'm saying I was just giving those example, right? Farah, when you work as a scrum master along with the product owner, when the team is working on the 10th sprint, Basically, both of you will be working on the 12th sprint, so
Okay.
that this
Okay, Kaushik, I'm
60%.
sorry.
Yeah, tell me.
I'll have to do a hard stop here.
Uh-huh.
I have to do babysitting.
No worries
So
there.
can we please schedule this later? Can I talk to Shan and then let you know when we can schedule this?
Sure. Okay.
Okay, and then I do
Uh,
definitely want something more linked to the BSM course.
sure.
That
Okay.
is the material I'm looking for.
Sure. Okay. Fine.
Okay, and then will you be sending